You are not just another hustling salesperson. You are the expert, the resource, the valuable partner for your clients. And how you grow your business should reflect how your clients see you. Welcome to the Roadmap to Grow Your Business podcast. We generate referrals without asking, build positive client experiences, and help you take control of your business. Here's your charmingly sarcastic host, Stacey Brown Randall.
Hey there, and welcome to episode 160 of the Roadmap to Grow Your Business podcast. I'm your host, Stacey Brown Randall. Well, first, let me just say, welcome to the back half of 2021. I know, it's crazy. It's July, my friends. July. Is that not crazy? The first half of 2021 is over, and we are now approaching what I like to refer to as the back half of the year. But we're at the beginning of it, so we still have 6 more months to go for this year. I want to ask you a quick question before we dive into today's episode. How are your referrals? How's your referral generation going? When you look back over the first 6 months of this year, are you excited about your results? Are you receiving more referrals than you thought possible? Are you having great success receiving referrals from your clients and centers of influence? If you are, congratulations. It is the most amazing feeling to have. But if your referral generation has been down or non-existent, or you've never really actually received the referrals you want on a yearly basis, ever, well, maybe it's time for you to start the back half of 2021 with the right roadmap, the right plan, and the right tools. And if that's the case, I would love for you to check out our Growth by Referrals program. Just go to growthbyreferrals.com and check out the program. There are 2 ways to work with me within this program. There is the independent study, which is our online version. You dive in, you go at your own pace, whether that's super fast or super slow. Both are okay. And of course, you get to be a part of our student-only Growth by Referrals Facebook group, which is a private group just for the members of the Growth by Referrals program, where you get to ask questions, be in community, see what other people are doing, and watch their success and share your own as well. Or you can do the VIP option, which is where you and I will get to work together for a full year. We're going to come together and we are going to work hard, but have so much fun. I promise. I make all the sessions as fun as possible. So I'd love for you to consider the independent study level or the VIP level of the Growth by Referrals program, whichever is right for you. But maybe what you need to do right now is to change the trajectory of where 2021 is headed for you by doing something different, investing in your business in a different way. And if referrals are the thing that will change the back half of 2021 for you, change the trajectory of the entire year, then I want you to come join us on the inside. I want you to consider joining us in the Growth by Referrals program, and let me help you move yourself from a referral ninja beginner to a referral ninja master. It's possible. It's happening every day in the GBR program, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. Again, just go to growthbyreferrals.com, check out the 2 levels, independent study or VIP, pick the one that works best for you, and come join us. I can't wait to see you on the inside and watch you become my next Referral Ninja Master. Let's dive into today's episode. So since episode 151, we have been discussing the client experience, the CX as we call it. We've covered a lot. We have had many, many episodes where we have really allowed ourselves to just dig in deep to understand all the pieces and moving parts and facets of the client experience. And where we've been recently is unpacking the 3 stages. So we unpacked the new stage, and then in our last episode, episode 159, we unpacked the active stage, but we still have the alumni stage and some other things coming up. But right now we're going to pause, and I'm going to answer some of the questions I've received about the client experience. I love doing this for every 10th episode. So this is episode 160. I love doing this for every 10th episode because it just gives me a chance to pause, answer your questions from whatever we've been talking about with the 9 previous episodes, and kind of reset where we are before we move ahead. So this was perfect that during this series, we had the opportunity for a Q&A episode to come up, and we're dedicating it completely to the client experience. And you guys submitted some great questions. I'm so excited to answer them for you guys. This is going to be awesome. So our first question is from Angela. Angela actually posted her question in the Referrals Without Asking Facebook group. That is our free community, which if you are not a member of our Referrals Without Asking Facebook group, I definitely want you to join. I will put a link to the community, to the free Facebook group, Referrals Without Asking, in the show notes page for this episode, which is stacybrownrandall.com/160 for 160. And don't forget, Stacy has an E. All right, here is Angela's question. Angela said, I had a question regarding the podcast series of the client experience. It seems like there is a pre-client experience too. The process of touch points as a person is deciding whether or not they want your product or service. Sometimes that can take some time. Is that right? Or am I missing something? Angela, you are absolutely right, except for we don't call it the pre-client experience, but you certainly could. Typically, in the sales training world, that time when someone is making the decision to say yes to hiring you, that time period is typically referred to as the buyer's journey. Now, when you think about the buyer's journey, right, I want you to think about, it's as if almost everything in our businesses comes in stages. So the client experience has these stages we've been talking about, and so does the buyer's journey. And typically, though different people will teach the buyer's journey differently, and they will teach it with different phases or stages, typically the buyer's journey is when they first become aware of your business. So like before they move into the buyer's journey, they don't even know you exist. Okay? So when you think about like they don't even know you exist, that's before they've entered the buyer's journey. When they become aware of your business, that's typically that first step or that first stage within the buyer's journey, awareness. And then they move into that process of their decision-making process of deciding to hire you. And depending on your business, that decision-making process could go super fast, or it could go super slow and take a while. It just really depends on what you do. Like, so for example, before I started recording this podcast episode, I was over on one of my favorite t-shirt websites, which is the 704 shop. So if you've ever seen me do any of my videos, most of the time, not always, most of the time that you're going to see me in Charlotte-based t-shirts. That's kind of my uniform. I have lots of t-shirts that are graphic t-shirts, but some of my favorite are the ones that come from the 704 shop. Which if you're in Charlotte, you probably have heard of this company. They do 704 or Charlotte-themed t-shirts and other apparel. And my guess is you guys probably have one in your city as well. If I had to make, maybe not all of you, but many of you probably have companies in your cities that do stuff that is just for your city as well. Anyways, I love wearing my 704 clothes. I was on their website. They have some new releases. I was looking at those shirts to see if I wanted them. Right. So I already am aware of this company because technically I'm a repeat client. But if I wasn't and I got their email and I'm checking out their apparel, I found the shirt that I wanted. Actually, I found two. I clicked on both of them. I put them in my checkout cart and I purchased. And so that buyer's journey decision-making process was super fast. But for most of you, those of you that I work with, right, my attorneys, consultants, right, CPAs, financial advisors, real estate agents, interior designers, bookkeepers, insurance agents, right? When you guys think about your world, the decision-making process isn't as fast as adding something to a cart and clicking checkout, right? That's not how it works. But that's just an example of how fast a buyer's journey can go. For most of us, though, they take time. There are some people who have joined my Growth by Referrals program, and some of you listening right now who one day will join my Growth by Referrals program, that you thought about it and kind of sat on the decision for months. And that's okay because that's part of your buyer's journey. So if you think about kind of like that prospect phase, when somebody is not a client yet and they're in that prospect phase, they first become aware of your business, then they move through the process of making the decision to hire you. But you typically have touch points that you're doing within that phase. Once somebody indicates an interest in learning more about you, you probably either have a series of meetings or a series of emails that you send out, or maybe it's a phone call plus emails, maybe it's meetings plus follow-up, whatever your process is of how you're helping someone get to the point of saying, yep, I need you, Angela, to help me, right? Whatever that process looks like, there are also touch points there. And that is referred to as the buyer's journey until the point where they are coming out of the buyer's journey and making a decision. And it's usually one of three decisions that a client or potential client could make, a prospect could make, which is, as I'm exiting the buyer's journey, I'm either going to say yes to you, which means I'm then entering your client experience. I'm going to say no to you, which means it kind of stops. Or I'm going to say not now, which means I kind of go into a holding pattern. And you definitely want to make sure you're staying in touch with the not nows, because you never know when the not now will turn to a yes. So Angela, as you're thinking through your buyer's journey, think about it. It all starts from the minute they become aware, right, that your Julie Concierge business exists, right? It's the minute they come aware of the fact that, wow, actually somebody can help me make sure I pick out the right engagement ring, right, or the right jewelry for this special occasion. And that person's name is Angela. And so as they come through the awareness stage and they start moving into the buyer's journey stage, what that stage looks like for you will be different for you than it is for me, than it is for anybody else. But you're absolutely right, Angela. The buyer's journey has a process, and it should be your sales process. I mean, truly, that's what the buyer's journey is. It's your sales process, taking someone from the decision of maybe I want to work with you, let me learn more, to yes, I want to work with you, or quite possibly no or not now, because that happens too. So the buyer's journey, we refer to this as kind of like it's part of that prospecting funnel or that prospecting pipeline. It's like people drop into the top of it and then they become aware of you, whether because they're referred to you or maybe they see advertising that you've done or they meet you at a networking event. There's different ways called sources that people drop into your funnel and become aware of you. And then they go through the buyer's journey and decide to say yes, no, or not now to hiring you. And if they say yes, they exit the buyer's journey and enter your client experience. If they say no or not now, they either exit your buyer's journey and go into a holding pattern, or maybe you just stop communicating with them for whatever reason because they said no. But if they said not now, of course, I want you to make sure that you have some type of ongoing process to stay in touch with them. So Angela, thank you so much for your question. I really appreciate it. It was a great one. And I think people need to understand the what comes before the client experience, right? Because that is a big part of how you bring somebody then into your client experience. And one of the things we talked about in episode, I believe it was episode 158, when I interviewed Aaron, one thing we talked about was this expectation setting and how important it was to make sure that you are setting the right expectation settings. And so we have this thing called like the journey map or the expectation map. And it's one of the things that I teach in my Sticky Client Experience program of like what it's like to work with you in terms of how it's going to be once they become a client. But that tool is actually one I've used in my buyer's journey as I'm helping someone make the decision to hire me. I map out before they say yes what it's going to look like to work with me, which is why it's so valuable to have that expectation map or that journey map right early on in the buyer's journey, and in addition to having it in your client experience. So there is some things that we do within our client experience that can actually help us. We can pull them into the buyer's journey stage and help people make the decision to say yes to working with us. So Angela, excellent question. Okay, the next question comes from Heidi. She had emailed me this fabulous question. And here's what she had to say. I've had a good amount of clients over the years. I'm curious if there's an answer as to why many of them have not referred new clients to me. Some of these current clients are going on to be working with me for over a year and a half now. It's so strange to see how often I receive referrals from outside sources than from my actual clients. It seems backwards. Okay, Heidi, you ask an excellent question. And I want you to think about it this way. When we talk about who can refer us, we talk about the fact that there are 4 types of sources. I'm not going to dig into them too much. We talk about this a lot on the podcast and in a lot of the training that I do and the free trainings that I do. But we've got clients and centers of influence as the top 2 types of referral sources. And then we have friends and family. And then the 4th type is strangers. But when you look at who is actually referring you, some businesses seem to receive referrals easier from one category over another. So many people out there receive referrals from their clients and they receive referrals from their centers of influence. But some of you, like in Heidi's case, you're actually receiving more referrals from non-clients. Now, I always tell folks what we want to do is make sure we kind of dig in and unpack why that is the case. So, Heidi, the important thing for us to recognize here is we just need to figure out the why behind it. Because if we can figure out the why behind it, then we can figure out how to solve it. Here are some things I want you to consider as to why your clients keep working with you and love you, but maybe aren't referring you versus you're getting referrals from your centers of influence. So one thing to consider, right, is that Not all your clients are going to refer you to begin with. So let's not expect that every client who says yes to working with you and just adores working with you and does it for years is going to actually refer you. One of the things I teach inside my How to Turn Clients and Contacts into Referring Machines, it's a masterclass training that I have that, of course, you can access separately, but it's also a free bonus inside the Growth by Referrals program. One of the things I teach in that training is that we're actually looking for the 20 to 30% of our clients that will refer us. And then I talk about how to identify the best types of clients to refer you based on some commonalities that they may have, some traits, so to speak, that not like personality traits, but some characteristics that you're probably going to start looking for. So the first thing I want you to recognize is that you shouldn't be expecting to receive referrals from all of your clients. So let's just take that off the table, because that sets us up for, can you? Yes, but that sets us up for a little bit of a recipe of disaster if that's what we expect to happen. So if we know we want clients referring us and we're getting referrals from other folks but not from our clients, then we kind of need to unpack and look at why. Number one, it could be that what you do, and I know this is the fact because I know when Heidi emailed me, she's a fitness trainer. It could be that when people choose to work with you, it's a very, very personal decision and they don't talk about it. Maybe it's actually that they're keeping it a secret that they're working with you, right? Until they feel like people will start to notice that they are changing and that they're looking better and feeling better and getting fit. So you have to keep in mind, based on what you do, sometimes that's a very, very personal decision that people may not run around talking about. But there's probably a point in which you are working with them when their results start to show. They start feeling better about themselves. And you identifying those moments are the moments when you want to start planting referral seeds with your clients. Because it's at those moments, right, when they are more likely to talk about you. So I want you to think about this in a couple of different ways, right? Because there's not one answer here, right? There's actually probably a few things for you to consider. Number one is, let's make sure we first are identifying the clients that are probably more likely to refer you than others. You could get this wrong by saying, I think these 5 will and these 5 won't, and you could be wrong, but you got to start somewhere. So we start with identifying who are the clients we think are more likely to refer us, and then paying attention to the progress that those clients are making within your business. Paying attention to the progress they're making. And when they get to the point where they start getting really confident of the work that you guys are doing together because they're seeing it in their own bodies, right? That at those moments are the moments maybe you want to start planting referral seeds with them, because that's when they may start be getting comfortable with talking about the fact that they're working with you, which means that they would then, of course, refer other people to you if they're talking about actually working with you. So for you, you really need to look at it from those triggering points in terms of the right times to start planting the seed with your clients. We like to believe that everybody who loves working with us will naturally refer us. It's just not the case. Actually, most of the time, people aren't necessarily built to just be thinking refer. Oh, I got to refer all these people I love. I got to refer them. There's actually a very small minority of people out there in the world that wake up every day and start thinking about who to refer because they just are built that way. There's just not a lot of folks out there like that. So sometimes, right, we need to make sure that we are doing great work, but also positioning those referral seeds in front of our clients in a way where we can kind of make it their idea to be talking about us. And what that looks like is dictated by the type of work you do. So as you're going through and you are thinking about, okay, how do I get my clients to refer me, right? You really need to be thinking about how you're going to identify them. And then once you identify them, are there moments within the client experience where it's the best time for you to plant referral seeds? And then, of course, what I teach in my Referring Machines masterclass, which has replaced the Increase Your Referral Sources masterclass, if you've ever heard me talk about that. What I teach in my Referral Machines masterclass is about not only identifying, but then the way that we cultivate and then the way that we bring them along in a journey with the right type of referral seeds to get to that very first referral and then nurturing that to receive more referrals. So when people come to me and they say, hey, I'm getting referrals, but not for my clients, why is it? The first thing I always say is, well, what type of business do you do? The second thing I always ask is, once I understand that piece, are there moments that it's a better opportunity for you to be planting referral seeds and maybe you're not planting any, or maybe you're planting them at the wrong time, right? I would assume with a personal trainer, maybe in the very beginning of our working relationship, I'm probably not thinking about talking about you to anyone else because I'm waiting to see if I'm going to get results, right? So, I mean, you got to get into the psychology of how your clients are thinking. So it's not only have you identified the right people, don't expect all your clients to refer you. The second thing is that are there moments where you can actually plant referral seeds and kind of get that subconscious thought process going with your clients, but they're happening in specific moments within you guys working together. And then the other thing that I would have you consider is sometimes it is all about identifying those that you definitely want to start referring you and then working them through the process of turning them into a referral source, which is what I teach in the How to Turn Clients and Contacts into Referring Machines, which is a masterclass training. It's like a mini program. So those would be the things, Heidi, that I would tell you to definitely consider as you're thinking through why some clients aren't referring you. And the fact that you're getting referrals from centers of influence means you definitely have the reputation and people definitely trust you, but why aren't they coming from clients? And you really just got to look inward based on what you do and then figure out, have you even identified the right clients and are you planting referral seeds? And what does that look like for you to create a different process in your business within the client stages for you to plant referral seeds? So sometimes it's not that you're not doing the great work and you don't deserve it, but you haven't actually had your clients start thinking about you from a referral perspective. Now, here's the thing, and I want to make sure everybody hears me say this. I am not saying that you ever ask those clients for referrals. What I teach is a different way to get them thinking about you from a referral perspective while you're delivering on this amazing work that you're doing for them and getting them to the place where those referrals that they will where they will get to a point where they will start sending referrals your way. And it's a tried and true process that a lot of people have worked and that it's working for them right now of taking people they wish were referring them and turning them into referral sources. I'm just going to teach you to do it in a way that's going to honor the relationship with those people you want to refer you with your clients. I want you to honor the relationship and I want you to be authentic. And at the same time, I also want you to realize that this isn't a process that moves super, super fast, that you've got to invest some time into it. But once people start referring you and then you can nurture them, like what we teach in the GBR program, nurture them to keep referring you, well, then the trajectory of your business can completely and totally shift, right? Now, there are some of you out there where you are not going to get referrals from clients and you won't be able to necessarily use the tactics that I've just talked through with Heidi from that perspective because clients aren't going to refer you, right? So think about a personal injury attorney. 9 times out of 10, any personal injury attorney I've ever worked with, they're going to get the majority of their referrals from other attorneys, not from their clients that they're helping through the worst, usually horrific moments of their lives or their family members' lives or their loved ones' lives. So for some of you sitting there thinking, oh, it's maybe I'm missing an opportunity to plant referral seeds with my clients or identify the right clients or work them through a process to where they'll start referring me with my clients. It could also be that clients aren't the best folks to refer you and you need to be looking at centers of influence to refer you. And that's the other piece we teach in the Referring Machines Masterclass, which is looking at it from that perspective of who is best to refer you. And if it is centers of influence, what's the process for that? If it is clients, what's the process for that? And, if you get to have both refer you, clients and COIs, then you know the process for both of those. So just keep that in mind as well. Okay, let's move on to another question that we received. And this question comes from Jackie. And Jackie asked, what is the best and worst stage of the client experience to ask a client to be a reference? And of course, as a reference meaning here, right, for the new prospects. So to be a reference so that when people are making the decision to hire you, you've got some people they can talk to, some references that they can talk to. So here's what I would say from that perspective. I typically find that the easiest time to ask someone to serve as a reference for me is once they have had results in working with me. So what you have to ask yourself as the business owner of your business is where are the points in my client experience where my clients start showing results? It looks different for every business, but ask yourself this question: where is it in the client experience that my clients start showing results? Because it's when they have results that they are much more likely and willing to talk to other prospects that are considering hiring you, and they can talk strongly, right, about why that person should say yes to hiring you, because they can speak from experience. And typically speaking from experience means that they've worked with you for whatever part of your process, whatever part of your client experience, to the point where they've started having results. So for me, I don't ask anyone to serve as a reference in my business until they have actually started receiving referrals. Now, I don't have to wait till the end of their first year, but if they start having a lot of great success early on, I will absolutely ask them to serve as a reference. I also ask folks to serve as a reference for people in like industries. So I have a couple of attorneys within my program that will serve as a reference for other attorneys considering joining my program. I have insurance agents in my property and casualty insurance agents in my program that will serve as a reference when other insurance agents are considering joining the program. Same thing for financial advisors, same thing for real estate agents. Now, a lot of my prospects don't ask to speak to references, right? Because they're all over the world when they're considering joining my program, but I do have those available. But all of my references came once they were in the alumni stage, because they had finished working with me in that first year and they had results, which means they actually did the work and got the results. So they can speak to what it's like to do the work that Stacey tells you to do inside the GBR program or any of her programs, and then here are the results they received. And that's usually what I find the best time to ask someone to serve as a reference, because if you ask them to serve as a reference and you're in the new stage of a client experience, if you're in that new stage, what they're going to speak to is the happiness and the happiness, satisfaction, and the excitement factor that comes from saying yes to working with you and while they're in the new stage, but they don't really know what it's like to work with you. And so it's harder for them to answer questions for someone who is vetting working with you, right? So if I have a client who just joined the GBR program, they've been in it a week, they've gotten their welcome video, maybe they've been in it 2 weeks, and now they've got one of their bonuses in the mail, and they're like, oh, this is great, right? But they haven't actually started working through the program, and they haven't started building anything, and they haven't come across any questions, right? And they haven't gotten any feedback from me yet, as they would in modules 2, 3, and 6 as they go through the program. They can't really speak to what it's like and what results they get. And I don't think those serve as the best reference. What they can speak to is how excited they are that they joined, right? In my case, how excited they are they joined the program in the new client stage. But for them to serve as the solid kind of reference I want them to speak to I did the work, and here are the results I received. So you do have to consider, what does this look like for you in your business? So think about at what point this person can speak to working with you and the results received, as in that stage, whenever that happens in your client stage, whether it's an active or ongoing or alumni, at that stage, when are they primed to be a reference? But here's also what I look for when I go picking people to serve as a reference for me. One, I'm looking for people who've always had results, but two, I'm also looking for folks who've more than likely given me a testimonial or permission to use their information as a testimonial, or have shared something with me that I'm then able to share from a testimonial perspective, because I also know they're probably more willing to serve as a reference too. That doesn't mean I certainly will ask people to serve as a reference and they haven't given me a testimonial yet, but I also know that when I have feedback from them, I receive feedback from them and their results, that I also know that's a pretty primed person to serve as a reference. So, Jackie, that is an excellent question about what's the best and worst stage of the client experience to ask a client to serve as a reference. Hopefully that was helpful. I think the worst stage is the new client stage, and the best stage is whatever stage it is after they've had results from working with you, in addition to obviously going through the process of working with you as well. Okay, those were 3 awesome questions. I was so excited you guys submitted those. I'll be honest with you, there's actually more than that submitted, and I just didn't have time to go through it, because you guys know I like to keep these episodes more on the shorter side for you guys, because I want to make sure you have time to listen to them and not get lost in hour-long episodes of mine. I want to keep these things under 20 minutes, and this one's going to come up on 30. So I wanted to answer these 3 questions. I knew that meant this episode would go a little bit longer, but totally worth it. So I am going to link, of course, to the resources that I mentioned in this episode. So I will link back to some of the previous episodes that we've talked about in this episode, like the interview I did with Aaron. And I will also link to the Facebook group Referrals Without Asking, so you can get in there and ask your questions like Angela did and maybe get them featured on an upcoming episode of the podcast. And of course, I will link to the Growth by Referrals program for those of you considering joining that and changing the trajectory of the back half of 2021 and starting to receive the referrals you deserve. All right, coming up next week is episode 161, and we are going to talk to a business owner who has definitely mastered the active client stage. We're going to hear from that business owner as they've mastered the active client stage. And then after that, we'll move on into understanding and unpacking the alumni client stage. But that's all coming up in the next couple of episodes. But until then, please take control and grow your business. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Roadmap to Grow Your Business podcast. To access all resources and links mentioned in today's show and to connect with Stacy, head over to www.stacybrownrandall.com.